Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunches Podcast, episode number 163. I am Brendan. PFL playoffs 2022, welterweights and heavyweights. It just went down. We're going to cover them. You know, Ronnie Macdonald. Ronald McDonald. Rory Macdonald versus Delano Taylor. Mateus Scheffel versus Juan Adams. Ante Delija versus Henin Ferreira. And what was the last one? Sadbu C versus Carlos Leal. So we're going to go over all of those and who's going to the PFL finals for each of those divisions. Before we get started, if you like the MMA, if you like the PFL, if you like UFC, if you like Bellator, I cover all those things here. Click subscribe so you can know when the next video is coming out. I cover them, I break down the fights, and then every so often I'll throw in some other stuff. So go ahead and do that. I'd really appreciate it. Awesome. Let's get started. All right, so Rory Macdonald getting knocked out by Delano Taylor. Great fight for Delano Taylor. I'm excited to see him in the finals here. It's going to be fun watching him. I think he's great. Rory just hasn't looked the same in years. He doesn't hold the same. Beating him doesn't hold the same cachet as it used to. I don't think it means what it used to. He really hasn't looked the same for the past 4 years. You know, he started MMA very young, and he has a lot of miles on him. Like, his face instantly gets torn apart every time he gets hit. It's not sad or anything. He has plenty of competitive fights, and I think, you put him in any sort of organization, and he's going to be competitive up to a certain point. I think he can still land some good damage. I think he can wrestle people, but you can see that he doesn't have that same killer instinct that he used to. And he's talked about that because, he is he has found Jesus, and he is a more religious fellow, and he doesn't want to go in there and try and kill the guy anymore. I don't know if he needs that to win necessarily, but I can tell you since that's happened, he has been a much different fighter. Not as good, not winning anymore. Delano Taylor looking excellent in this one for as long as it lasted. Lands a beautiful punch and puts Rory right down. I am rooting for him in the finals, and I will address that when we get to it. But I hope he knocks the other motherfucker out cold. I really do. Delano Taylor is fun to watch. So he is going to the finals. Ante Delija versus Henin Ferreira. So Ferreira is one of those guys where they talked him up. They talked him up a lot because he's 6'8" and he's really athletic, and big guys don't move like this, and blah 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 blah. Well, now he's got 2 losses in a row, and yes, they're two competitive fighters. They're not. It's not like he's fighting scrubs necessarily, but I think a lot of the hype around him was overblown, and when you put a can in front of him, he could crush those cans just out of pure athleticism, but we can see what happens when he's versed guys who have varied strikes and varied strategies and abilities. They are, I wouldn't say easily able to take him out, but the way Ante did in this one was unbelievable. It was fantastic. He pressured him against the cage, worked for a takedown, and then he eventually gets it. Ferreira, being as tall as he is, you can't do a lot of that when you're on your back. And he wasn't really aggressive off of his back as far as going for submissions or anything like that. He was just sitting there pretty defensive. And Delija got into good position, started throwing down some ground and pound. He even stood up at some points so he can really lean into him and throw some bigger shots. Excellent job by Ante. Looked fantastic. And he's 3-0 this season. He just looks great. He looks fantastic. I think this fight, it was utter domination, by the way. It wasn't even close. There was never a moment where you're like, oh, Henin's doing really, almost immediately he pressured him against the cage and then worked for a takedown, like a minute later, but he was just in control the entire time. At heavyweight, that's a huge thing because anything could happen with any punch, right? There's just so much mass, so much force being thrown around in there, and a jab can knock you out sometimes. They're really big dudes. The variables are there's more consequences to the variables at heavyweight than there is at flyweight. If you take a couple jabs at flyweight, they can be bad, and they are cumulative, and every so often you'll see one drop somebody. That can happen at flyweight. But at heavyweight, stiff jabs, you can see them rock somebody regularly, and it's not an uncommon occurrence for a bad punch or a horrible technique to come out on top just because they're bigger dudes. Shit happens. So Delija not necessarily taking the safe way out, just the surer path to victory, and just fucking ran right through him. Fantastic. I cannot wait to see him in the finals. It's going to be really fun. Moving on. All right, let's talk about his opponent here. So he will be taking on Matthias Scheffel, who beat Juan Adams via third-round TKO. This one was a little bit weird. So Adams managed to eat a couple of shots in this fight early on, too. And his chin was holding up. And he didn't even get knocked out. Like, the TKO, he was on his feet. And, yeah, the ref gave him, he said, like, you need to show me something. But I thought it was a weird stoppage. Not a bad stoppage. It was just very strange. The timing, Juan Adams was backing up because he was getting hit. But Matthias wasn't on top of him unloading a barrage of punches. He would just land a couple and then land really good on Adams, and then Adams got backed up. You can say whatever you want about him not seeing punches. I don't know. Adams actually got a takedown in the first 2 rounds. Didn't really do much with him and didn't land any damage. I actually gave the first 2 rounds to Matthias anyway, so Adams needed a finish or a 10-8, which would be weird because he would tie it, and this is a playoff, so... on the feet, Adams was just getting picked apart. He couldn't do anything that he wanted to do. He was just kind of a sitting duck. He doesn't have what it takes to kind of hang in there with some of these better heavyweights. And Matthias has shown us over the past 2 fights, he's done pretty well. He's looked pretty good, and I think if I have to pick a favorite in the finals, I'm definitely going with Ante Delija. I am definitely going to go with him. We will talk about heavyweight. We'll talk about the finals in a second here because I want to go over the last fight of the 4 that were a part of the playoffs here. Sadibou C taking on Carlos Leal. C winning this one via unanimous decision. Leal was aggressive early, and he was leading with really hard kicks and low kicks to the body. He did a ton of damage. And if you look at the FPR, like the rating, that had him winning the first round, as did I, because C was just jabbing and backing up. And yeah, he landed more because he landed the jab. And it's unfortunate because it actually cut Leal right on the cheek here. And that was a slicing jab. That can happen. Skin can tear, and then he kept tagging that with the same punch. And, he's throwing... I do not like watching C fight. He's fucking boring. He's horrible. As far as MMA goes, watching this guy is like watching paint dry. It's horrific. He jabbed. It's like watching a guy who just picked up Undisputed, the UFC game, and he doesn't know what to do, but he figured out how to press the jab button, so he presses it like 5 times in a row, and he's doing like 5 jab combos, and then he'll throw a high kick. That's pretty much all he did. He threw kicks to the body, jab, and then he would run away. Like, he used good foot movement to keep himself off the cage once in a while, but he also got held up against the cage, at moments, and he was getting hit very hard by Leal, especially early on. Those 3 kicks that Leal landed early on in this fight, or early on in this first round, I think offset anything that C did the rest of that round. So, C was doing a good job keeping the distance with the jab, but that's all he was doing with it, was keeping the distance. If you land one big shot, it counts for more than 10 jabs. It just does, unless that jab drops him. Cumulative damage is worth less than stuff that is done immediate damage. Right, because cumulative damage, although possibly fight ending, doesn't necessarily lead to... Anyway, so I had Leal winning that first round, as did the FPR. I mean, the commentary team had C winning, and the judges apparently had him winning that round too. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but apparently that's what they had him. Second round here, Leal was pressuring him against the cage and landing really great shots. See, literally running away at the end of the second round. I don't mean that figuratively. He turned around and ran away in the last 3 seconds and then put his hands up like he was doing something. Body kicks and doing those jabs is not enough to overcome the damage that Leal was doing. If you want to look at the strikes, even look at the total strikes landed. I know because it doesn't break it down here round by round, but look at the total strikes landed. They're in favor of Leal. This is very similar, not to the Rory Macdonald fight, in which C kind of like him winning that one's fine. It's the fight before that one. Dude, C has the same strategy every time, and it's fucking boring. It's horrendous. So in this last round, and then in the last round here, I had Leal up 2 rounds. And then there was a point deduction due to a low blow, which C has also been known to like milk. He milks these things because when he gets tired, you can call it a veteran move. It's fine. I don't like the way he fights, and I don't like watching him, so I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt. All right, I don't give a shit. And then Leal was pressuring him against the cage, and he threw a knee, and it went errant, and that was a low blow. And I've always been in favor of immediate punishment. Right? Always taking a point. Always do that. Just fine. And because a point was taken, there were some people who were kind of surprised by it, as was I, because usually you don't get a point deduction there was no warnings before this. There was no previous ones. He just decided to take a point immediately. Great. So a point deduction means that he can't get 10 points. And I think that C probably won this last round. The pressure in the last round and the damage you could in the first half of that last round you could give to Leal, but I didn't. I actually gave that last round to C. So he won that round 10-8, which if you do your math means that Sadibou C and Carlos Leal should have had a draw. But that's not what happened. C fight, dude, it's just he's so fucking boring to watch. This is horrible. So let's go into the bracket real quick here, and let's talk about who I hope gets knocked the fuck out. I hope Sadibou C I hope he gets absolutely dismantled. I hope Delano Taylor goes in there and knocks him into tomorrow. I really do. He's so boring. It's not good for the sport to watch a guy do that, especially when he's not in it's not like he's going in there and doing the Israel Adesanya, picking guys apart and using his technique and making adjustments and doing things and getting knockouts every so often. That's not what he's doing. He's getting jabs and walking away, but the judges, he's playing the game in such a way that the judges are giving him the decisions, and I don't understand it. I really don't. It was this one. This is the fight that I was kind of confused by. Yeah, look at this one. Look at this one. You think I'm crazy or you think I'm just being a hater. Check this shit out. Look at this. Just the FPR. You just want to go by FPR. 37-23. 34-34. So close second round. 37-26. Nikolai clearly won this fight. I thought he clearly won this one. I can go back and look at my notes, but I guarantee you I would have had it almost this way, if not more, in his favor. But I gave him, that was his fight, but somehow C gets the win. And because of that, that's why he's in the playoffs to begin with. And now he does it again with this crap. And his second fight against Rory Macdonald was an absolute stinker. And people are upset about that one too, because it wasn't a dominant performance, and a lot of people thought Rory did enough to win, but somehow he keeps skating by. So I think it needs to end. I don't want to sit I'm not interested in saying a guy. I hope a guy doesn't get money. That's not it. But what I don't want to see is a person being rewarded for this kind of fighting style, in which he's not winning. He's not winning these fights. But I don't know if he's actively taking advantage of how the judges are seeing things, or if it's just incompetence. I don't know what is going on, but it's horrible to watch, and I can't stand it. I hope Delano Taylor gets in there and knocks him out. I hope he Like, just either flatlines him, or I would love to see like a 5-round just mauling, just where he just rips the guy apart, and then we all get to see Sadabu, like, understand his real place in this division, because he should not be fighting for the title. I don't think he should have been in the playoffs. That was horrible. So regardless, like, I think Delano Taylor has what it takes to beat him. Absolutely. I also am rooting for him, so I am not unbiased in this. I am absolutely biased. If that wasn't clear already by how kind of animated and upset I am at watching this crap. I know I've watched this guy for 45 minutes and lose fucking 40 minutes of it, but somehow come out 3-0. Like, holy shit. And not through knockouts. These are decisions. That's what I said. 45 minutes. That's 3 fights, all going to decision, and him getting all of them. It's horrible. But, we're not going to bring that up, because if he makes it to the championship fight, well, now that he's made it to the championship fight, we can't talk about how he doesn't belong in there, because then that's going to devalue this system or devalue the championship. I'm still going to say it because it's the truth, and it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and pump the guy up when he doesn't deserve it, because he doesn't. Holy shit. So boring. After sitting through Bellator last night and then watching this today, the other fights weren't bad on this card, actually. I thought they were pretty good. I didn't watch all of them. I only watched the ones for the playoffs. Maybe when they get to the finals, I'll watch the whole cards. It really depends on how these videos do. But when I was watching his fight, I had the exact same feelings as I did when I was watching Bellator. Like, I can't wait for this to end. Like, this is horrible. Please stop this. Like, please knock him out. Get him down on the ground and ground and pound him, please. Like, I cannot stand this. It's not fun to watch. Like, when you watched Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, and a lot of people complained about that being boring. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to say it was exciting, because it wasn't in a traditional sense exciting. But they were both jockeying for position, and Israel Adesanya was clearly playing the smart game of trying to bait him in, and then Yoel kind of wasn't falling for it. So he just started taking out his front leg. And he won that fight. I don't want to hear it any other way. Yoel Romero lost a lot of fights that he should have, and then he won some fights that he shouldn't have. He did not belong in the position that he was in just because he's exciting and somehow got like a following. I don't understand. Like, I didn't understand that at all. But anyway, that fight wasn't exciting, but I would rather watch Israel Adesanya, because you can tell, like, that's his game plan, is to draw things out from the opponent and look for the finish, and draw things out from the opponent and try to land damage. And he does that very well, and he's using a lot of skill to do so. The only thing skilled about C's fights, I would say, are his jab and his takedown defense. Right? He threw some spinning bullshit at the end of the fight because Carlos Leal did. But he's not aggressive. He's playing the counter-striker. And not only is he playing counter-striker, he's also actively running away at some points. Right? And there's certain fighters who can get away with that stuff because they can turn around and they point fight and they try to get into aggression. But there's probably more if I wanted to sit down and break it down at why it's really unpleasant to the eye to watch compared to some other fighters who have similar techniques. But if you know, like, when you watch this, it does not look like a highly skilled fighter. It looks bad, right? The fact that you can win a fight, because that's the other thing, is he's not, in my opinion, and also if you go off their scoring system, he's not winning fights. He's not winning fights. He's getting these decisions, and then we all just have to live with it because it's a part of, like, and this happened last year with Rory getting a horrible decision against, I forget who, and, he said he's never going to fight in New Jersey again. It's just the incompetence of the judges, and obviously this is in New York where we've had some issues in the past with some shitty judging. Whatever. Let's move on. Let's talk about a fight I'm actually interested. Fight that I'm, like, super excited for. Really don't have a horse in the race. like I said, Delano Taylor, I'm rooting for him. I hope he gets in there and beats the shit out of him. I hope it's not competitive at all. This is one of the few times where I just want to see a total beatdown because that guy has been rewarded way too much already. He needs to be punished. I mean, the judges obviously aren't going to do it, so hopefully Delano Taylor can. All right, Matheus Scheffel versus Ante Delija for the heavyweight championship here in the PFL. Pretty exciting, actually. This is, like these are both newcomers that weren't in. Delija was not newcomers. Sorry, Delija was the champion at one point. This is, there was also because of Juan Adams had to step up because there was the visa issues. But, so Matheus, I think should definitely be the underdog going into this fight. Delija has way more skill, and if Juan Adams can take you down, then Delija probably can as well. He hits really hard. He's got not bad striking, way better than Juan Adams. He's got a chin. He can fight, and Scheffel's great and all, and he's got decent cardio, but he's not a. He's good. He's good. All right. He's not a bad fighter, and I'm glad that he's made it this far. I think it's cool to watch, and I'm excited to watch the fight. But I am leaning heavily towards Ante in this championship fight. I probably got him winning like 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10. I think he should be a big favorite going into this finals. All right, that's it. We're gonna end it there. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. If you like like I said, if you like this video, click the like button. I'd really appreciate it. But if you do like PFL, like UFC, like Bellator, I cover all those things, so subscribe to the channel so that way you know when the next video is coming out. I would really appreciate that. If this is the only video you're going to watch this week, fantastic. Thank you for stopping by. It means a lot to me. If you're looking for the UFC, it's in the next videos. If you're looking for Bellator, it's in the last one. And I hope everybody has an amazing week. I hope this weekend's treating you really well, and I love y'all.